Alright, so last night at 3 a.m., Dredge came out, which is a game that I was reminded of by a mate of mine a few weeks ago, and to be honest, I thought more people had it on their radar because it looked really, really, really good. But then I've gone today to check the new and trending and the top sellers, and it's not there, which makes me believe that not many people know about this game, so hopefully this video clues you in as to what this game is, and lays out my first impressions for the first 4.5 hours of playtime. So Dredge at its core is essentially a fishing simulator, but there's a lot more going on than just that. At the start of the game, you crash your boat, and then these townsfolk help you out, and you got to pay them a bit of money back for helping you out. And once you've paid that back, the real game begins. Essentially, you go out, you catch fish, you bring back those fish, and you use the money you get from that fish to buy upgrades for your boat, whether it's equipment, storage, or anything else. The fishing mini games are quick and satisfying, but they also get different as the game progresses. They don't stay the same. So, for example, remember Skyrim with the same lockpick thing the entire game? It gets different. You know, the mini games change up, and it's dependent on the kind of fish you're going for, the depth you're going for, what area you're in, and so that's a nice change of pace, and it helps the game not get boring. The other element of the game is the inventory management, which is satisfyingly done here. I think there's a really nice challenge to it. It's not just stash shit away in your inventory like in Tarkov and then let it get out of hand. Here, you actually have to be a bit more thoughtful with where you place things, especially your equipment, because your equipment is part of the storage. Your engine and your fishing rods and things, they take up space in the boat too. There's an almost peaceful element to going out to catch the fish and then bringing it back and selling it and rinsing and repeating. But of course, it isn't always peaceful. The nighttime is quite creepy, and that's where I'll get into the atmosphere. In fact, the atmosphere and immersion in this game is done very well, I think. I think there's only so far that you can go within the context of this game when it comes to the immersion and horror elements. Like, I think, for example, if you were to do a first-person horror game, you would have a lot more to play with, I think. But this game doesn't kind of overstay its welcome in that area. It doesn't try to do things that it can't achieve. It just gives you a really good sense of atmospheric horror and scares you when it's necessary, but it doesn't try to do too much, you know, and it doesn't take away from the gameplay either. It creates a nice challenge, it creates a nice pace, and the ambience in general is really good at creeping you out. So far, there's a really nice element of grind to the game as well, which is really good because I think good progression systems are almost essential to any game that has them. So it's good to know that this game's progression system motivates me rather than confuses me or makes me frustrated. When it comes to progression as well, I really like the skill trees, although they are quite short and succinct, which leads me to believe that the length of this game may be only 10 to 20 hours. I'll get to that later, but I really like the skill trees as they are. There's one tree that uses research parts that you find around the map to unlock new things that you can buy from the shops. Then there's a progression system where you're upgrading your ship with scrap and things that you find around the map, and you just craft bigger parts and better parts of your ship. Then there's also books that you can get, and you select these books, and they'll passively complete themselves as you're playing the game. And once you finish reading the book, it'll reward you with a passive bonus. I've been kept pretty parallel with the progression. You know, I'm not outpacing the game and the game isn't outpacing me. I'm not falling behind or anything like that. The game does lock certain elements of progression behind quests, but it's fine in a game like this where, you know, this game isn't built around giving you all the freedom in the world. Rather, it would kind of keep you on pace and keep rewarding you as you complete certain quests and things. But that's the extent of locking you out of completing certain things. So, you know, you can't catch this fish until you've completed this quest. I want to give a quick shout out to the soundtrack. It works very well for both day and night. The tracks that they play represent each time of day very well, but I'd also like to give a shout out to the overall sound design as well, which I think is great. All the menu interactions as well as fishing and dredging all make the appropriate sounds, but I do think that the real winner here is the ambience. Wherever you are and whatever's near you, the ambient sound in this game really does excel. Throughout your time exploring the open world, you'll find tons of different things to do and explore. I'm not going to pretend like it's an inordinate amount of stuff to do. I'm not going to pretend like this game has infinite variety, but I've been pleasantly surprised every time I've gone to explore a different area. There's always been a shipwreck or an NPC to talk to or something to do to kind of progress my game in one way or another. So those are my kind of impressions after the first 4.5 hours, but I'm unsure about the end game. You know, I don't know if there's any new game plus. From what I can tell so far, this is definitely like a 10 to 20 hour game rather than a full kind of 40+ hour experience, which is totally fine with that. But you know, maybe there's some end game stuff to do. You know, I'm happy to keep fishing. I'm enjoying that part of the game. So maybe there is some end game stuff to do, and I can sink more than 20 hours into it. But so far, it's definitely feeling like a shorter kind of game. In terms of negatives in my first few hours, I can't really name any. I think the biggest negative would be, whatever the end game turns out to be. Maybe my last 5 hours of the game are just kind of repetitive and boring. But so far, the only element I can think that might annoy some people is the whole sanity thing. Essentially, if you're out at night for a long time, if you don't get enough sleep, if you perform certain actions, your sanity will decrease, and there's a higher chance that you'll get attacked by certain creatures and things like that, and you might lose progress if you die. While the sanity element hasn't pissed me off yet, it might annoy some people, and they might see it as kind of like you remember malaria from Far Cry 2? That was kind of annoying. It's not annoying in Dredge, but it could be for some people who just kind of want to go without stopping. The other thing is, for me, generally, a negative in games is a lot of dialogue. I hate reading dialogue. It really turns me away from games. And this game does have dialogue, but it's so succinct and it totally cuts to the chase every time. So I'm even okay with asking NPCs extra things just because the writing has like a no bullshit attitude to it. And to touch on story, mystery, writing in general, this does have almost like a mystery narrative feel to it, which I think is echoed throughout the open world as well. But so far, I'm invested in the story. I'm invested in figuring out what the hell's happening in this game, and I can rarely say that about the story for games nowadays. And I think it's important to note that I haven't experienced any bugs or anything game-breaking yet. So my first few hours of this game are exceptional, and my only real worries are that the end game, in quotes, won't be super captivating, but I understand that they might only have gone for a certain experience and just tried to make the entire 10 to 20 hours exceptional rather than bothering with a lackluster endgame. But yeah, I just wanted to get this video out as quick as I could to let as many people know about this game that so far for me has been really, really great. So follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch, subscribe, and have a great day. See you later.